name is Ashley Shannon, and I'm here with my co-host Kerry McAvoy, and you're listening to the How to Publish Your Book podcast, where we're helping writers become authors. And today we're going to talk about writer's block, and all the things that come with it, right, Kerry?
Exactly. All the problems that you hit when you're in the middle of a writing project.
Well, first off, how are you?
I'm doing really great. I'm excited to be here and be talking about this.
Me too, even though this is not a topic that usually makes me excited.
Yeah, well, why don't you just get it right out there so we can start from there? I think that's a good place to start because it is some controversy around the idea of writing block, writer's block.
Well, yeah, so I wrote, I didn't realize it was such a controversial topic until I wrote a blog post that was called Writer's Block Doesn't Exist. And just going through the comments on there, I realized that it is actually pretty controversial stance that I've taken, which is that I do not believe that it exists.
Yeah, I bet you got some not very pleasant comments that came back. Probably they felt a bit attacked, I'm imagining.
Oh yeah. Yep. That's exactly what it was. They definitely felt attacked. But it takes, I think it's a certain kind of writer that felt attacked. Those that are very, like all about the artistry of writing. And those are usually the people that tend to get offended when I talk about writing for money, instead of just writing for the craft of it all. But yeah, they definitely, I would say that those are the people that frequently get writer's block, and that's why they were offended. I use my,
Well,
my
I mean,
special
I think that's a good place to start. Let's start with the fact that there are different types of writers looking to write for different reasons, and that maybe they have different methods, and they might also have different problems as a result of that. And I mean, I know for myself that I've written educational material. There's been times that I've struggled with writing a topic because either I didn't know enough or maybe I wasn't all that thrilled by the topic. Maybe it kind of bored me because it was more for the purpose was outside of me. It wasn't being internally, I wasn't personally interested in it. So I've done that. And I also am a kind of a spiller confessional storyteller. And so those to me tend to flow a lot better. And since I don't write fiction, I haven't hit a plot problem where I ended up painting myself in a hole. I think that can happen for some people. So there's two different types that I know of: is the educational, the teacher. Then there's a person who's a storyteller. What other types of writers do you think there are?
I really only think there's two types of writers. Which is funny because, for a very long time, we were in the same writing community that was like, there's like 5 or 6 or 20. I don't even care. I think there's planners and there's pantsers, whether it's fiction or nonfiction. And I find that pantsers tend to feel writer's block. I'm going to stop doing that because I feel like people are offended by that, by me quoting it. But I feel like pantsers, yeah, I feel like pantsers tend to hit writer's block more often than people who are planning things. Because like I write fiction and I write nonfiction, and I would find myself meandering through blog posts and all that stuff when I was not planning out, when I wasn't outlining blog posts, and I would write myself into corners in fiction and not know where I was supposed to be going when I wasn't outlining my fiction projects. So yeah, from my own experience, I really just think it's planners and pantsers, and it's really hard to make up a story on the fly, I think. And I think that can really cause someone to have some sort of block, I guess.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm a pantser, and the idea of having to slow down and do a plot or an outline for a plot, I want nails on blackboard. I don't want to do it. I'm going to fight you on that. I have not run into writer's block personally, but I have struggled to move forward on projects at times. I've had inner resistance for other reasons, not because I'm out of ideas or I feel yeah, but I have felt a hesitancy, maybe a procrastination. I would describe it more like that. I do think there are different types of writers. I think there's the journalistic type that really loves to explore the world and wants to know the truth. and they're all about justice and righteous and truth seeking, and they're more interested in what's happening in the world around us. I think there's a storyteller. I see some of us, like you and me, are both people who like to share either a fictional story or a real story. And then I think there's those that just love the idea of the word. They find expressing a concept in a very complex, layered way very delightful and get a lot out of it. And then I think there's people who just love to educate, and they're the sort of more the teacher type. So I do think there are different types of people that approach writing, and I think that each type might run into some difficulties based upon their particular type. I know for me as a storyteller, sometimes I end up feeling my life is either so humdrum, so kind of ordinary everydayness that I don't really feel like I have inspiration. And there's other times where my life is so stressful and maybe so traumatic, maybe so full of stuff that I don't have the bandwidth to even think of putting something down on paper. So for me, it has to be kind of in the right emotional space. But I can imagine others running into problems for other reasons. So I do think it exists, but I don't think it exists as commonly as we say it do. Because I have to say, because as a psychologist working with people who come in with problems, a common problem I see in general is a tendency to procrastinate, to avoid doing something because they really don't want to, don't like to, or maybe don't feel passionate, or are too scared to do it. So I think that sometimes we catch all that and say it's writer's block, as if it's a outside thing instead of an internal dynamic.
I was trying really hard not to laugh while you were talking because you just make me sound so non-sympathetic. I'm like, nah, guys, you're just lazy. Go do some work. Okay, so I was looking over that blog post that I wrote a while ago, and it does kind of talk about, there are things that can get in your way. So a long time ago, I used to say that if I sat down to write a blog post and there was any type of resistance, I would move on to a different blog post. I have the ability to do that because I write down ideas for new blog posts every day. I try to do 10. At one point, I was trying to do 10 ideas for 10 different publications or something, but now I just try to write 10 ideas down every day.
You
But I
literally
find,
write 10. Let me stop you. You write 10 ideas down every day.
yeah. Mm-hmm. I
Really?
have a notebook full of them.
I had
Yeah,
no idea.
so
That
I
is so
have
cool. Where'd you get that idea from? And what are you like? What are you looking for? Say more about that. I think that's fascinating.
Okay, so it started I don't know how to pronounce his name. I'm going to pronounce it wrong. But he writes for Publicis AO. He wrote an article a couple of years ago, I think, about how to never run out of blog ideas. And he said that, he wrote down 10 ideas for blog posts every day. And I've played around with it in a couple different ways. And I actually wrote my own article. Sometimes I'll just pick a topic. Like there was a time where I was, I'd pick like breastfeeding, and then I'd write down 10 different things that I could write having to do with breastfeeding. And in the article that I wrote on Medium, I did bug spray, like 10 different things, that I could write about, whatever. And I did that.
Pull an everyday concept, like you even said, bug spray, or
Yeah.
it could be moving to a new house and adapting, whatever. You pick something, and then you write 10 ideas that have to do with relate to that.
Yeah, because I had students that for a long time, one, didn't know what they could write about. Their life was too boring to write about or to blog about. And I was like, my life is literally the same like every day. Like I sit at home and work. I take care of my kids. I make a lot of macaroni and cheese. Like that's like my whole life. And yet I'm constantly creating new material. And that's because I don't look at something and be like, oh, I'm going to write. There's only one way I can write about this, because that's not true. I broke up with somebody 4 months ago, and I've literally probably written 10 articles about it.
Right.
From different different angles, different things that went wrong, like whatever. And so, yeah. So, I
even thought
now,
about the mac and cheese example you just gave.
Yeah.
Yeah, what it's like to live a life where mac and cheese is served almost every day, and how
Yeah.
still like life is not a mac and cheese experience or something like that, you know?
Oh yeah, there's that. And then, because so my son has autism. I'm pretty sure my daughter has autism, but they won't diagnose her until she's 3. She just turned 2. Um, and so, even going into like how to get your autistic child to eat, to try new foods,
Yeah,
because that's a really big problem.
it's a big problem. I've raised
Even
them too.
like
So.
how you can make box mac and cheese healthier or better or other alternatives.
Or
Like
reduce the fat and
I'm
sodium
telling
on
you
it.
right now, I could write 10 different articles about mac and cheese. And that's just like this
Oh yeah, or probably the
habit
most
that I've
horrific
created.
horror story you've ever experienced with mac and cheese, having it all over the floor, and
Oh, Emmy like does this thing where she like shoves whole handfuls in her mouth and then she goes like this in her hair. So for those of you who are not watching us on YouTube, I literally just took both of my hands
yeah.
and rubbed them through my
Imagine it's
hair.
just
And that's
like
what my
war
daughter
paint
does.
you're spreading on your hair and face. Yes, exactly.
Had tacos last night. You should have seen her. It was
Oh, I can only
ridiculous.
imagine. I have so been there. Man, I used to think about buying a big plastic sheet. I think I did for a while, put it under the table just to save the work from having to clean the floor off.
Oh yeah, there's no carpet in my house, so I'm very
Yeah.
thankful in this new
Yeah,
house.
that
But
does help. That does. But yeah, so that's a great. I love that. I love that. I don't write 10 ideas, but what I do is I keep a app or a notepad or something that's very convenient. And whatever I'm doing through the day, if something hits me, if I'm stirred or I have an reaction or a thought about something, I immediately jot it down. I may even go so far as not only to jot down the idea, but also some points that I've already thought of or a takeaway that I would want to end on. So I try to like quickly jot down some kind of like a skeleton to it as much as I can. And I keep it a running, it's running notes. So it's always going on. I mean, I never stop. It's
Mhm.
always, and then when I get one done, I kind of move it to a, off somewhere. So it's not taking space up. But I do think that we have to learn to be, because that's just part of the challenge, is learn to be on the lookout for ideas. And I think that's where people get in trouble, especially when you're blogging, is how to generate interesting ideas. But what we don't realize is our reactions to life is the idea generator. The fact that life isn't simple and stuff happens. And I mean, for example, I don't know if you've been keeping up with things, but right now there's the big movement going on with hashtag not all men. I mean, you could take something that happens to you around that topic, or even maybe you object to that topic, or maybe you're a man and how does it feel to have people, maybe you're feeling accosted by the topic. But I find that there's rich material constantly around. All you have to do is read Quora or go on TikTok or read a Medium article or watch TV. I mean, it's just, to me, the world is filled with ideas, very, very creative ideas. So it's getting in the habit of listening to myself and picking that up so that I can keep a running journal for those to then use to write them when I want. And that's the thing I do, Ashley, and I don't know if you do. I'm the same way. If I start an article or I look at something and it doesn't that day turn me on, then I move on to the next thing. I don't want to waste my time trying to churn out a topic that I'm totally not interested, that's going to end up, upsetting me or whatever.
Yeah, it really does. And I just tend to write down anything that's of interest. And I have this for like a nonfiction thing and a fiction thing, because I'm always like plotting several different books or thinking about several different books at the same time. But I mean, it's just anything. People think that mundane ideas mean boring blog posts, but really it's just, somehow there's a noteworthy idea in there.
Well, yeah, I
You
wrote
know.
one on being stood up at the restaurant, waiting on a date that never showed at the restaurant. And I've titled it "What I Learned While Waiting at the Restaurant." I think that we can take any moment, even hard moments, sad moments, fun moments, and then there's a life lesson in everything. That's the amazing part to me, is there's a gem in everything if you look at it in the right way.
Yeah. I I feel like a lack of ideas or not thinking that your ideas are good enough is something that people, kind of blame for them not writing or, having writer's block.
Right, right. I do think that's a piece of it. I think fear is another one. So, have you ever had an article or something you were working on that terrified you? You didn't know if you could say it, didn't know if you could put it into words?
Yeah, actually, I'm not going to go into details because it's super personal, but I wrote about like kind of my experience with my first girlfriend, and who also happens to be a writer on Medium, and wrote her version of the experience. And um, I kind of wrote it all out and was like, yeah, this is not like, I'm not ready to share this. I think I was just kind of scared of being judged or whatever. And I was like, no, no, thank you. um, but I tend to get like scared of things going good more than things going bad. I think I ultimately think that all things are going to go bad. So I just, I'm always worried like, uh, I've learned that it's the story that I don't put a lot of effort into that is usually the one that goes viral, or the one that's like super embarrassing that I'm like, nobody's gonna read this. It's not gonna be a big deal. And that's the one that gets a lot of views. Um, so if I feel like it's something that might have a lot of potential, I usually tend to get like scared and I will put it off for a couple of days. I'll eventually finish it, because my want for money is bigger than my fear, I guess. Like,
Hmm.
but yeah, I don't know. What about you?
Yeah, no, okay, so I grew up in a pretty conservative home, pretty emotionally conservative home where our range of emotions weren't allowed in the house. I mean, I wasn't allowed to be too loud, I wasn't allowed to be too angry. I wasn't, if I get to cry, I needed to move out of the room. So, when you live in that kind of constricted world, then there's a lot becomes not okay, not only not to feel and express, but also really not to say, because that also means that they don't want drama at any level. Well, we know that what makes something really interesting is that it has to have an emotional jolt. It has to resonate with the world. So if you cut all that out, then who wants to read it? I don't want to read a piece that's just intellectual garbage. I can open a manual and it'll do the same thing for me. It's not
I can read the phone book.
exactly. It doesn't. So for when I first started writing, I found it terrified because it meant breaking that rule. So for a while, and I also, this is another thing, I was shocked. I found out that I would write something and I would read it and find out, I realized that it wasn't the complete truth. That I was painting this because it was a memoir piece. It was my describing the time before my husband was diagnosed with cancer, and I would read a scene and I would realize it didn't really happen that way. I just prettied it up. So I'd try it again. And then I would read it again and I'd say, that's not how it really happened. I just prettied it up again. So I found that my own self, my own kind of defense mechanism couldn't quite face that life was more difficult. Things weren't that nice. It wasn't that great. So it was really hard. It felt like a betrayal, to be honest with you, to tell the truth. So there for a while, I put a post-it, and I got this out of the book, Your Life is Story by Christine Rayner. She suggests, and I did what she suggested. I put a post-it note in the corner of my computer that said, "Write what you dare not say." So every day I would look at that and I'd say, okay, this is what I'd actually use it as a prompt. I'd say, what are the things that I'm not saying today that I need to write about? And it would help. It really helped.
Yeah, I used to do that, because I would write about my relationship that I was still currently in when I first started blogging. And, my last book is about, that whole relationship and kind of leaving it behind. And uh, I would like kind of polish up the turd that
Yeah.
was my relationship so it looked better to the people reading. And I didn't get so many emails that are like, why are you still in this bullshit,
Right, 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 right. Yeah.
and
And I
that's
think
kind of,
that's the other hard thing is because when we write, I mean, let's be honest, Ashley, when we write, we're putting our life out for scrutiny.
yeah, I I don't think people really have any idea how many critics there are out
Oh, yeah.
there. And it's not only just like critics, but it's like sorry, there's a man in my yard.
Oh, no problem.
Hold on.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay, that was weird. He just like walked through my front yard and now he's continuing to walk down the street, but he walked like insanely close to my living room window,
Like, let's peer into the
which is like
window.
right there. Yeah. And
Yeah. Like,
yeah, so
hello. Yeah, exactly. Wow.
um
Yeah, I agree. You were saying where you left it, and I'll jump in. Is go ahead and finish it. You were saying people don't realize the degree that they see into.
people don't realize how many critics there are when you're putting your life out online. You know, just and you know, for every one person that leaves a shitty comment, there's, you know, 1,000 other people that read it and judged you anyways, but just chose not to leave a shitty comment. It's hard. Like everything, even, you know, sharing a picture on Instagram of my son when he was like 2 months old, and people attacked me because he was sitting in his car seat, but he wasn't buckled in. Well, he wasn't in the car and he was 2 months old and couldn't get out of it. So I didn't really see what the problem was. But holy hell, did I get raked through the coals, you know, like
Yeah.
to the
Right.
point where I just ended up deleting it.
Right. Right.
And so, yeah, people don't understand how difficult it is to put yourself out there.
Right. Right. And they often treat what we say as if it's a argument, like it's an opinion. And when we're telling
Mm-hmm.
something about something that's personal, like
Mm-hmm.
one of the big ones I get is with my article on me being autistic, I get actually people will come back and say, no, you're not.
I
Well,
love that.
yeah, okay. How do you know? You're going to know from a 1,000 word article that I'm not. And then how do you know? And were you there at every point in my life? And then, by the way, who are you? And what is it? And what does it matter to you? I mean, really, why do you get off on this? And then now, and what am I supposed to do with the fact that now you've now weighed in on something that is mine? It has to do with me, and you haven't lived in my life, and now I'm supposed to somehow have a decent response for you. I mean, yeah, I think that people. So I can understand why some of us sometimes find putting that down hard because we are, whether we are ready or not, open ourselves up for that kind of scrutiny. I mean, I think about, for example, if I write about dating, I think about people like, is she dating too fast? Is she dating too many? Is she dating enough? Is she giving these guys a chance? Is she getting in bed with it? I mean, there's all these ways in which we get looked at and nuances.
Mhm.
And then there's another thing that we don't talk about that happens. Well, at least we talk about it some, but we don't talk a lot about it. Is then there's the exploitation that happens. So we're criticized on one side, and then other side, we're like, "You're very cute. Can we talk? I don't know you. Will you send me a photo? Why? Why would you want a photo of me? It's not for good reasons. I can tell you that." Or yeah, it's just and it's like, go away. I'm not for your entertainment, but I am also. It's not just a simple opinion. This is my personal life. I just don't think people appreciate that. So that
No.
certainly can impact some of us in making it hard to blog because you end up thinking, can I deal with any of this? I mean, if I don't, then what is there to talk about? And if I talk about the things that are safe, does anyone want to even read it? Probably not. Probably not.
And yeah, it's funny because you talk about like it's almost like one or the other. Like, please, well, first off, I get plenty of positive comments. Don't think that it's like only negative comments or like exploitation. But like for every positive comment, I probably get a dick pic in my email. You know what I mean? Like it's just maybe that's balance.
Yeah.
Like I don't know. That's just
Yeah.
how it's supposed to be. But
Right.
it's funny, like I mean, I don't want to stray too far off topic, but I can say that, you know, as somebody who blogs about sex, I write about sex, you know, for a while I was writing every day. I really enjoy it. I really enjoy being open and free under a pen name that nobody knows is me. But the people's response, the dick pics and the thinking that I mean, basically, I'm just a whore or a prostitute. You know, like they can proposition me or pay me or whatever. That really made me just like stop. And I haven't written in over a month because I'm just like, I write about it, and I don't even write about it in like a erotica kind of way. It's more of an advice how to kind of
Yeah.
way. And it's still
Yeah.
like, oh, because you write about these things, then, I can
You're
buy
available.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm just
Yeah.
like, I'm not available in any
Right.
sense of the word at this point, but I'm just like, yeah, no, that might have created a writer's block situation for
Yeah,
me,
see,
if I'm
I
being
say actually
honest.
that sounds a little bit like writer's block, which you said
Shut
suffer
up.
from.
No, it's more of reevaluating if this is an income stream I want to continue to pursue.
Right, right,
Because
right.
sometimes it's it is exhausting to like, say no constantly all the time. Like it's exhausting to be a woman and get hit on at all at this
Yeah, yeah. In fact,
point.
I've been getting to know another writer who also actually works in the sex industry, and I got to thinking about how much I'm encountering, how much you and I are encountering, and I actually sent her a letter and say, "Hey, I just want to thank you for the hard work that you're doing, and that you're amazing, and thank you for the sex positive articles that you put out there, because I know that being on the front like this, because that's sometimes what we're doing, we're being on the front a bit on some of these topics, is not a not easy place, and everybody likes to have an opinion. So I agree with you. I think for me it can slow things down. It can make me get wary or a little more cautious, like writing more about autism after the flashback that I got on some of that has I mean, I actually got full on attacked and shamed, told that as a psychologist, I should know better about diagnostic, and that I have a greater responsibility and accountability for being accurate. So it got pretty intense towards me, which is difficult because it puts me in the position of feeling like I have to defend myself when I shouldn't have to on a personal story. So I can see how for some people this could certainly be an inhibition, but I know there's other types of writer's block. There's writer's block when writing long pieces, like in fictional pieces and other nonfiction pieces. So, what have you heard? I know you personally haven't experienced it. Since I haven't written a long fictional piece, what have you heard people have? What happens to people?
Well, if they don't plot, they can get frustrated really easily, not knowing where the story's going, spend a lot of time doing that whole like daydreaming thing. And that's why I would pretty much tell everyone that they should plot their stories out, because while, you said you don't want to put in the time to, before the story, um, you will eventually probably spend more time doing the whole daydreaming, thinking it out thing while you're writing it than you would have if you just put it all down on paper first. Um, and I mean, I'm not gonna say this sucks so bad. I'm not gonna say that I've never had like writer's block, but I've definitely like walked away. But I think that that's different because it's like I walk away for an hour, I walk away for an afternoon, but it's never for like multiple days at a time because it's a job. Like I can't walk away from blogging for months on end because I don't feel creative. It's my job. Like I have to make money. So I just think I don't know, it's a little different, I guess. But
Yeah, you're making a really good point, and that is maybe sometimes for some of us. Not, I'm not saying for all of us, but maybe for some of us, it's the way in which we view the reason we're writing. Is it a hobby? Is it something we just really enjoy and we pull out when we have inspiration and are feeling in the right mood, or is it our day job? And if it's a day job, then I know that we need to approach it the way we would a day job, with set times, set goals, a commitment to show up on a consistent basis regardless of how we feel. I mean, there's a way that I approach my work, and then there's a way I approach my hobbies, and if I start to confuse this as a hobby, it soon will not be generating any income or have much of a future. But I think that for some, it get that place becomes muddled. When does it move from a second job or something they wish was a full-time job to becoming a career? So
yeah, okay. So I think that definitely plays into it. And I think where I keep getting hung up on is like everybody uses writer's block as like, this is why I'm not writing, instead of diving in and figuring out what the actual reason is. So like sometimes I find that people are not treating it like a job. It's a hobby, but they want it to be a job. So, that's a block, I guess. But like that's an obstacle. Some people are writing in the wrong genre. So they'll, think that they should be writing romance because that's what they really like to read, but they keep not writing or putting it off because it's not the genre that they should be writing, even though they love to read it.
Right.
They want everything to be perfect, or they're waiting to be inspired. Those
Right.
are all obstacles that can keep you from writing if you let them.
Right.
But I think if you're really serious about writing, at least really serious about making it a day job, then they're just hurdles that you have to
Right.
jump over, right? Like,
Right, right. And I was even thinking that there's those that I know that are fear of succeeding, and then there's those that are fear of failing, and those are other reasons that you're not going to want to show up because what God forbid, what if you sit down and that piece does do well, and what if your whole neighborhood does read it? Do you really want everybody to know that about you? I mean, and then there's those of us that like, what if I write this piece and no one reads it and they don't like it and it gets? I mean, yes, those are hard. Those are hard places, and it is easy to let those things get in the way of us achieving our goals.
oh yeah, and especially if you're blogging or you're writing any type of nonfiction. Um, I live in a really small town now. I didn't when I started blogging. I lived in a place where nobody knew who I was. Hold on. So, I worry about that. That's one of the reasons I have a pen name for, writing about sex, because I don't want to go pick my kids up from school and be like, that teacher's looking at me funny. Did she read that piece about unicorns? Like, whatever. So, but, but I
She's
also
not talking
have,
about the fairy tale ones either.
no, I'm not. But yeah, no, it's just kind of like, I have that fear of, people reading my stuff or not reading my stuff, which is kind of like a fear of being successful because I really want to be successful. But at some point, when you go viral, people read your stuff. And so I have the fear of being a failure as well as being successful.
Yeah, yeah. I had a weird one. While we're on it for a second, so somebody was talking to me on a dating app. So what do you do? Well, I write. I also do short form video. Oh, you do? So what do you mean? Well, I'm on TikTok. You are? He goes, are you famous? I said, no, I'm not famous. He goes, well, so do you mind telling me your handle? Sure, you can know my handle. I'm thinking, do I really want you to or not? I go ahead and he looks at it. And he comes back, goes, oh, you're famous, and he disappears.
Oh, you're famous?
Yeah, I'm not famous, but in
Don't
his
you have like
opinion,
2,000 followers on TikTok?
yeah, but I have one that's gone over 500,000 views.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's not like it's not. Now, I know you and I know enough in the TikTok world to know what fame really looks like. No,
Hmm.
I don't have it. That's for sure. I am a tiny little
Not yet. I just keep saying
peon.
not
Yeah,
yet.
not yet. But in a comparative world to someone who's not doing this at all, yeah, okay. I'm not. I have a tiny blip in the world, but anyway. But yeah,
I would say, like, okay, being slightly optimistic, if you put our entire platform together, we probably reach 50,000 people on everything
probably.
together, you and I combined.
Yeah.
Probably 50,000 people. Are we famous? No. I guarantee you that he looked at that and was like, she talks about her relationships. I don't want to be talked about on TikTok because I recently started kind of seeing somebody, maybe, I don't even know. We have not defined anything. I don't care to define it. But it was like this running joke of like, what's my name going to be in the blog post,
Yeah.
And I feel like that's almost like him like joking about it because he's uncomfortable because he knows I'm going to write about it.
Right.
So I guarantee you that the guy's like, no, it wasn't about you being famous. It was just about the fact that you were going to put him on blast.
Oh yeah, exactly. Well, yeah, I mean, exactly. Yeah. And I actually one time I had a guy come back and read one of my most popular articles. A guy circled back and said, "Wow, I must have really blown it that you wrote this article about me." I actually said, "No, it actually wasn't about you. It was about someone a couple ahead of you. I did not write about you." But then I didn't know whether or not that was a good thing to have said or a hurtful? Did I which was a bigger offense to his ego? That I didn't think him worthy to write about, or that because it wasn't a good date. The one I wrote about wasn't a good date. Anyway,
I would have just sent him a link to Carly Simon, You're So Vain. Left it at that.
yeah,
Like mic
right,
drop.
right, exactly. But that is the stuff that I mean, especially when in the blogging world or in the content creation world that we face is we want to grow, but then it also there's an impact to that, and that can, I think, for some that can have an effect. You know.
Yeah, and I don't care what you're writing, because everybody writes from a place that they know, even if they're writing fantasy or whatever, it's still vulnerable. Nobody wants to hear that their writing sucks. Plenty of us have already been told that our writing sucks.
Yeah.
Um, so all in all, it's a very, what's the word I'm looking for?
Very vulnerable.
Thank you. I knew you were going to say it. I was like, it's a very vulnerable place to put yourself in. Everybody judges art. Being a musician is very vulnerable. Being an artist is very vulnerable. Everybody judges it, and it's all subjective, honestly.
That's a great point. So that was where I'm going to take us next is how do you get yourself out of this box if you find yourself in one?
Well, you just have to, yeah. I mean, you have to understand that if you have to take an examination of what hurdle is holding you back. So if it is that you're afraid of success or failure or being judged, you just have to understand that good reviews come with bad reviews. What is that cheesy saying? You can't have a rainbow without any rain. It's exactly that. I get just as many good comments as I do bad comments. I went on Goodreads the other day and saw that I had a 2-star review on my book. Now, I have all 5-star reviews on Amazon, but I have a 2 stars on Goodreads, and I was like, probably just not our thing,
Yep.
like, okay.
Yep.
And that's kind of what you got to do. But if there's some other reason, if it's you're waiting for inspiration, or you can only write on a Tuesday as the sun's going down or whatever with the candles lit and all that stuff, I'm going to tell you that you need to get over it. Or you're never going to get
I was gonna say you
anything
need to
written.
I was gonna say you need to schedule it. Then you better start scheduling those moments. You're saying get over it. Like no, work with it.
I have written on buses, planes, and trains. I have written with babies in my lap. I have written with vomit in my hair. Like, if at any point, yeah, if at any point you want it to be your job, you have to show up. And that's where I think I come off super harsh, is because I will be the first person to be like, turn off your Netflix show and sit down at your desk. Like, it's not fun.
Yeah.
But if it's what you want, you do it. Oh, I just saw this saying, and it's actually the saying that I'm going to post on the wall behind me in my new office. And it's like, choose your hard. Being overweight is hard. Getting healthy is hard. Being financially responsible is hard. Being poor is hard. Choose your hard. And I was like, that's my new model for this year.
Yeah.
So that's it. Choose your hard.
Yeah, that's a very, very good point. And I think the other thing is schedule, really make it part of your life, and also have the things in your life to keep the ideas flowing, so that when you have inspiration, don't wait, do it that moment. How many times have I had this happen, and I know other people have had it happen? You come up with this fantastic idea, you think it's so wonderful, you'll never forget it, and an hour goes past and you have no idea what it was that you thought about. Don't miss those moments. If you think of something really, really super good, capture it, whether it's a voice memo or a notepad, whether you're taking notes, or send an email to yourself or a text message. Do something because you will not remember it later. So, and I love your idea, and I'm going to start doing that too. Take a topic or take it each day. Say, hey, whatever, patios. I'm going to write 10 ideas about patios or whatever. But I think that's great.
Yeah, I tend to do it for like I'll do 10 ideas for my pen name, so 10 ideas about sex, and then 10 ideas about, my regular blogging stuff. So that's usually mental health, relationships, and parenting, sometimes writing. But it really, I mean, you will see that it's different from the day. Like I'll get hung up on like one aspect of mental health, and I'll like the other day I wrote 10 articles about autism. Now, after listening to your experience, I might think twice about writing them, honestly.
Well, you're not a psychologist writing about autism. I get a little bit of a unique kind of.
Well, actually, I got my ass handed to me when I wrote about my reaction to Graham's diagnosis. But then
Mm,
I just did like a tele thing with Graham's pediatrician, who is Emmy's pediatrician, and got like the pre-diagnosis for her.
yeah,
They won't obviously will not diagnose her till she's 3. They did the same thing with Graham.
yeah.
But he says that she has a lot of markers. And then we sat down and had a conversation about me and my markers and all these different things that he saw in me. And he's, definitely thought that I was on the spectrum somewhere.
Yeah.
But it's obviously not an official diagnosis. I don't feel like I need one.
Right. Right.
Like a doctor's
Right.
like, you got 2 kids and you have ADD and a lot of other symptoms.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
pretty
Yeah.
obvious,
I know, and mine was my father, my more than one son, and then I had a therapist who I was telling, and she said, "And have you ever considered that maybe you might be too?" I'm like, "What?" And I said, "No, no, I'm not." She goes, "I think you should reconsider that." That's what she
Yeah.
said. So then what I did though is I went out and took some actually they're used as true blue screeners, clinical
Mhm.
screeners, and took them, and sure enough I fit not in the neurodivergent, I fit in the autistic realm, in the range of autism. Not neurodivergent, but autistic.
Yeah.
Hard part is I'm an older woman who's was no support and learned to camouflage well. So people don't know what my childhood life looked like.
Yeah, I put those people that bash people like that whole scenario in the same category I do as when people tell me that my son doesn't look autistic.
Yeah, yeah.
Graham, quick, do something autistic. Like, no.
Start spinning table or
Right? Like,
yeah, plates or
whatever.
something for them. Yeah, exactly. Good grief. I know, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, no, I think that part of it is for me is just learning. The best way for me to keep inspired, because that is one of the other reasons. So the recap was it plot. It really helps to plot, especially if you start to see yourself get in trouble. Watch your internal dialogue. What makes you nervous? Why are you shutting down around the idea? Have you made it a part of your life? Have you scheduling it? You have to make space for writing. It takes a good couple hours a day for me to do a decent job to write. And then stay inspired. Watch your life. Keep track of stuff. Use the idea of generate 10 ideas every day on a topic or whatever. But all of this helps avoid the writer's block problem, I think.
Yeah, and the 10 ideas, I mean, that works for plot points, but too for fiction. So every once in a while, I don't do 10 ideas every day, but like I will definitely be thinking about, what story I want to work on next or what story I'm currently working on and thinking about different plot points and stuff like that. Staying inspired, not only just by your own life, reading always helps me. If you're writing, you should be reading. But I also watch a lot of TV shows. I like trying to watch them as a writer, not just a
Mm-hmm.
viewer. And so that keeps me kind of
Mm-hmm.
pushing towards something
Oh,
too.
it does, because even how they even tell a story, where the
Hmm.
plot points are in the story, and what comes as a surprise. I mean, you're right. When you whether you watch or you read, if you watch it or read it from a viewpoint of a writer, you learn a lot. It's really interesting. And then I want to throw out one more, because you and I are busy working on this at the moment, and that is being around other writers. I have
Yes.
found that so helpful. It normalizes my experience. I find out that I'm not alone. I learn new ideas, like your idea that you just gave us today. So I come back richer for having been around them. Um, I learn kind of tricks of the trade that maybe I'm not aware of. And it's just a positive energy of being around people who are very similar to myself and see the world in the kind of the same way and are battling the same kind of issues that I am, which is why I'm so excited that we're going to be doing these retreats coming up. I think that's awesome.
I am really excited because oops. Okay. Anyways, sorry. So I'm really excited because I lived in a town that was like full of writers, but we were in a pandemic, so I didn't get to meet any of them. Now I live in a really small town where I don't think there's a single other writer, and it's really nice to hold on. Yeah. No, bring it here. Oh my goodness. I am really close to being done. Can you go put this back in the fridge, please?
No.
Yes, yes.
No.
Oh my God. Fine, just go. Go, shoo. Bye. Goodbye. Anyways.
No.
Yeah, so I live where there aren't any writers, and it's hard to people don't understand what I do, and it's really hard to feel like you can have a conversation with the other moms in town who go to regular jobs or just stay home, or so it's
Yeah.
nice to meet other people like me.
It is. I had drinks on Saturday night with two local writers. One I had never met, but I knew she runs a big. It was had a Publicious, and sat down with her. And I'll tell you, I felt like I felt like we were old. I just wanted to give her a big old hug. I felt like I know you, and I'd never met her before. So there is
Yeah.
something really, really special about being around other writers that yeah, I just felt like I could breathe. We get what we're going through. We're all going through it. We have the same issues, the same things around money, things about inspiration. Same. It's just really a great relief. So I'm super excited about our ability to get together with other writers and then to talk about the kind of issues that we're talking about, they're running into, being able to support each other, create space for each other, to do some writing on our own, but yeah, just to sort of to take advantage of the vibe that we're going to have with each other. So it's going to be in October as well as in February for 5 days down in the Caribbean in Playa del Carmen, Mexico. So I hope that you check it out and hope to think about joining us.
Yeah, all the information and stuff will be in the link in the show notes, as well as a link for the Discord community as well. So I'm really glad that we had this conversation. I did learn a little bit. I still don't know if I technically believe in writer's block, and I'm still gonna do that every time. No, but I definitely think that there are hurdles you have to jump over, and I think you just have to decide.
Yeah.
I really think that sometimes you just have to sit down and write a bunch of crap to kind of get over a hurdle.
Well,
I think
yeah, Ray Bradbury said if you write something every day, if you write a short story every week, 52 of them can't be all crap. One of them will be a gem in there.
yeah, I think I don't like practice makes you better. I don't think anything makes you perfect, but like the more you write, the better you're going to get at it. So as long as you're not letting anything get in your way, not making any random excuses, then you should be good.
Right. Well, I am too. It's not something I personally struggle with a lot, but I do know that that a lot of people are affected by it, and it's not an uncommon problem. So I'm glad we talked about it too.
All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for listening, and we will see you next week.
Bye.
Bye, guys.